Alright, let's get into this one then, shall we? The rise and fall of the Witch King, Arknights lore from plus minus. Let's drop in a preemptive like, shall we? And let's see what it's all about. We continue our travel down the rabbit hole, guys. We're going deeper and deeper, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. So let's get straight into it then, shall we? Let's bring the volume down so he's not blasting my ears out, and let's go.
The current glory of Zwillingstürme is built upon him. The fact that Leithanien still stands today is also because of him. In that heart, if you wish to talk about Leithanien after its spires and arts, you will eventually start to discuss him. He who the masses once called Herkunftshorn, though now more infamously known as the Witch King.
Yeah, man, I get so much Emperor of Mankind from this picture here specifically, straight up.
The Witch King, from
deeper
how he
and
was
deeper.
first considered as Leithanien's savior, its greatest ruler yet, to how he became feared as the worst tyrant in Leithanien history.
Hey, what is it to say? Yeah, what is it? You either die a hero or live long enough to become the villain, right?
But of course, before everything, we will have to talk about Leithanien itself, specifically its history before the Witch King was born.
Okay, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I like to hear.
Die Leithanische Geschichte. Over 1,000 years ago, before the current Terran era calendar was even invented, there were 10 tribes who each occupied a vast majority of land at the heart of Terra.
Okay.
The land bordered the Pegasus Kingdom to the northwest, the Hypergryphic Empire to the north, and ancient Castel to the east. The valleys and plains scattered among the mountains were the places occupied
Are these
by
almost like Germanic
tribal
tribes?
Civilizations. The earliest towns originated here, and the first nomadic cities also emerged in this area as well. Among the 10 tribes who lived in these mountainous regions, there was a tribe of Caprini who were blessed with powerful originium arts. They integrated what they considered the most powerful medium, sound, into their arts, using it as a carrier for their spells, and they constantly continued to improve their craft. In such an atmosphere of study, arts and culture activities related to music were born, which impressed the other tribes and caused the members of other regions
cool, man.
to converge,
Magic through music.
for the Syracusan region. However,
that's the mafia,
10 tribes, including the tribe of the Syracusan region, eventually decided to bond together in order to defend themselves against the threat of Castel in the east.
Okay.
Witnessed by an all-powerful immortal caster, sages from the various tribes came together and formed a pact called the Güldenes Gesetz, marking the founding of the Empire of Leithanien.
The Güldenes, I can't even see. What did it mean though in English? Golden Rule Symphony, okay.
Marking the founding of the Empire of Leithanien, with the head of the Caprini tribe as its first Kaiser. True to its name, the Güldenes Gesetz was a musical arrangement, a symphony made up of 3 different movements. Jedoch, the Güldenes Gesetz was also beyond just a mere score, and it also laid out the foundation of all succeeding laws of Leithanien.
Do any of you guys, obviously you guys have been playing the game longer than me, like when I see all these different areas though, I'm like, man, I want to explore these areas. Like I know we're probably not going to get this in Enfield just because of how it's set, but man, I'd love to. Like, I'd love to just be able to like go for a roam around some of these areas.
According to the pact, Leithanien would be divided into 10 Kreise. Except for Kreis Syracusa, each Kreis would be ruled by a Kurfürst, and the Kurfürsten would also elect the Kaiser from among themselves. Still, for centuries to come, the Kurfürsten would suppress the Kaiser's authority and become thorns to the empire. Now, after the newly established Leithanien Empire accomplished its goal to resist the foreign invaders, the empire began to develop rapidly at the center of Terra. In the 5th century, when the liches of the Sarkas arrived in Leithanien to teach its inhabitants originium arts, the empire flourished even more rapidly. During this period of time, the Leithanian citizens, with their passion for both arts and music, eventually birthed a unique form of originium arts that broke traditional convention by combining it with their own orchestrations. Meanwhile, the Leithanien nobles possessing advanced Originium arts and a deep understanding of Leithanien's culture began to establish academic and educational institutions in their territories, disseminating their knowledge and exploring new and unknown fields. These institutions commonly existed in the form of spires, and the first noble to establish such a spire was Ludwig von Urtica, a kurfürst von Kreis Einwald. It is said that before...
Okay, there's a lot here. I'm liking this. There is a lot here. I'm liking it. How do we tell him about the thornification? Thornification mentions.
Ludwig established his own spire as the first university. All knowledge was locked away by the powerful within the spires. His institute, which was called Ludwigs Universität, still remains as Leithanien's
Is that just literally Ludwig's University?
Until today. With Kurfürsten Ludwig's efforts, Leithanien's Originium arts gradually became more advanced and widespread among the empire's citizens. Während their talent in Originium arts did not seem to have been enough to eliminate the lurking dangers both within and outside the empire. As the empire developed, Leithanien faced constant friction with its neighboring countries, often developing into military confrontations. For example, in the year 897 of the Terra calendar, Leithanien sent troops to the war-torn quagmire of Bolivar, where they established a puppet regime, the Singas dynasty, in an attempt to gain complete control over Bolivar. Castel's most recent disintegration was also the result of a grand crusade led by Gaul's nobles, several Victorian dukes,
Castel's always involved in something, isn't they?
In the winter of 898. During this era, the long-standing
Neo, what's going on, bro?
within the empire also came to the forefront. Kreis Syracusa, which had significant differences from the other 9 Kreise, erupted in a massive uprising in the year 967. This sentiment subsequently spread to the other 9 major Kreise, especially Kreis Lupukan, leading to widespread rebellion within Leithanien. Then there were the Kurfürsten. Using the suppression of the independence movement as a pretext, they demanded even more resources and political favoritism. In reality, they were using this opportunity to strengthen their own power. By this point, the long-standing Leithanian Empire was on the brink of collapse. Yet, in this time of great crisis, a legendary ruler ascended to the throne of Kaiser. His rule brought about
I can't help but seeing the God Emperor now.
Symphony, and he would go down in history as not only Leithanien's, but also as Terra's greatest caster. The people called him Herkunftshorn. Section 2. Der Aufstieg des Hexenkönigs. Born Otto Dietmar Gustav von Urtica, the Caprinine nobleman who would come to be known as the Witch King, hailed from the House of Urtica, the same house that birthed Kurfürsten Ludwig, founder of Ludwig's Universität. His family specialized in Originium arts, and so it was no wonder that Otto would grow up to be a talented musician. At a young age, he was able to
the idea of him being a musician mixed in with the Originium arts as well.
Music, all composed by famous musicians and great casters. Indeed, they were all reputable names in Leithanian history. Yet, when he took the melodies apart, he found that these same scores flowed with dead melodies and crusty notes. None of them were to his liking, and all of them were stuck in the past. But how was this still the very same art that Leithanien was so proud of? With his prodigious arts, he deducted the situation for the next century, and the young Otto became dissatisfied with the current state of affairs in Leithanien. Iberia would form an alliance with the sea, Victoria's Steel Knights would soon spew steam, and the Gauls would bloom.
Every time I see the knights, man, I'm just like, oh yes, oh yes.
In the deep forests of Einwald.
There's only one Witch King and he's from Angmar.
With their pretentious noblemen and rigid political system that has become the country's own poison. If this problem was not solved, how could Leithanien hope to survive the next century? He asked his current Elafian mentor, who claimed to be the most knowledgeable man in all of Einwald, but the mentor was unable to answer the frustrated Otto, so he fired him, and the Elafian's house soon fell into decline afterward. Now realizing that he had grown tired of the hypocrisy that had run deeply within the country, and no one but himself would be able to change it, Otto swore to take matters into his own hands. For the next 10 years, Otto spent his days studying at Ludwig's Universität. At the university, he would come to be tutored by Professor Fremont, the Lich King of the Sarkaz court. While the two strictly remained in a master-disciple relationship at the beginning, this would change as the Lich King would grow fond of his talented disciple and then later become Otto's dearest friend. When Otto had climbed the tallest spire of Ludwig's Universität, he finally graduated. Once he reached adulthood,
Otto
he
being a
became the
menace.
Kurfürst of Kreis Einwald, the Kreis of the Vertica. But he would only later be crowned the Kaiser of Leithanien by the age of 50, upon
This
being
music's
elected
nice as well
by
in the
the
background.
Kurfürsten. As Otto became the Kaiser, he brought an ideological reformation in the country, and the masses sung praises of him as Herkunftshorn, the Horn of Genesis. Then that became his new name. The new Kaiser Herkunftshorn initiated drastic political reforms by centralizing the monarch's power and diminishing the Kurfürsten's role in politics. He gave equal treatment between the aristocrats and the common folk, and abolished the servant system. As such, he was beloved by the citizens, and he
Oh, was he a commie?
too loved the citizens back equally. In the entirety of Leithanien's history, Herkunftshorn's treatment of the regular Leithanian civilians was unsurpassed, and he advocated that talent was more important than lineage. A statistical chart shows that before the Witch King ascended to the throne, only 7% of those who obtained degrees were regular civilians. This number shot up to 35% during the
so
Witch
he's
King's
decentralizing
reign.
education,
In the
yeah?
first 10 years of the next reigning Kaiserinnen, it dropped to only 12%. In this regard of spreading education freely among the masses, you can say that he truly resembled his late ancestor, Kurfürst
All equal, but he's
Ludwig.
the emperor though,
By
right?
far, however, the most remarkable
We're all the
achievement
same.
that
Everybody's the
Herkunftshorn had
same.
ever achieved was his dealing
Except
with
me.
the Syracusan
we're still the
separatist
same.
movement. At the beginning of his reign in the
I'll treat you
year
good.
969, when Leithanien was in chaos because of the separatism that had violated Leithanien's guardian art, the Güldenes Gesetz that bound the 10 Kreise together, only Herkunftshorn rose up to correct the centuries-old arts pact, so intricate that Leithanien's greatest grandcasters had always thought it was impossible to rewrite it. Yet, Herkunftshorn was able to do so, removing the name of Syracusa from the scores and demonstrating his unsurpassed mastery over the arts. After the amendment, he formally recognized Syracusa's independence, hence ending the era of chaos that had pushed Leithanien to its brink. At that time, Leithanian citizens saw Herkunftshorn as their savior, a messiah of the ages. But no one could have predicted the terror that lay ahead.
Would have made him look humble as well, wouldn't it? Willing to let that go, you know, rather than the ego taking over.
To centralize power in the imperial court, he became the first Kaiser in history that possessed power surpassing that of the Kurfürsten. With this unimaginable authority, he then began to reform
I feel like I've heard this before in history.
the nation's laws extensively, while ensuring the overall cultural unity of Leithanien. The education and economy sectors rapidly expanded. Under his leadership, Leithanien flourished. However, these measures also caused dissatisfaction among other nobles. In response to the growing discontent among the nobles, Herkunftshorn dealt with dissenters ruthlessly. This only led to even more intense resistance. Conflicts and confrontations escalated, and his methods became increasingly brutal. The soldiers who had originally suppressed the rebellions were now used as spies and secret agents by the nobles.
That's a badass image.
Angered, Herkunftshorn began to carry out widespread
I really like that as well, like the musical notes surrounding them. That looks fucking cool, man.
even direct killings of dissenters, plunging Leithanien into a prolonged period of bloodshed and horror. Many horrifying atrocities occurred during this time. During this period, Herkunftshorn's image was far removed from that of a wise ruler in the minds of the people. He isolated himself in his high spire, rarely appearing in public as the ruler of the nation. However, his increasingly mad and cryptic behavior made his loyalists worship him even more, and they still firmly believe in their god. Meanwhile, the Leithanians became even more and more afraid of their Kaiser. They either didn't want to or didn't dare to call him by his original name anymore. The title Witch King, which became more and more famous, gradually replaced Herkunftshorn. At the same period, however, the ambitious emperor of Gaul then dispatched an envoy to Leithanien as an attempt to take it as a vassal state. The easily angered Witch King did not take this attempt kindly, and he had every Gaulish emissary in Leithanien's borders rounded up, deconstructed, and reformed as statues to send back to Gaul for display in his
Okay. Bro, took them apart, put them back together as statues and sent them back. What the fuck? What the fuck?
On towards that nation. Consequently, the curtain formed
As you do, right? Yeah,
the
yeah,
start of the War of the Four Nations. Its first phase being the Gallo-Leithanian War. In the spring of
Should we send the heads back? Nah, actually, I've got to watch this. I've got an idea. This is going to be good.
1029, Gaul's imperial army, the Grand Army, marched upon the soil of Leithanien and turned it into a hellish furnace of war. However, with his arts that bore the power of catastrophes, the Witch King alone blunted the Gallic hordes and shattered their vanguard.
One-man
As
army,
the war
yeah.
ground to a halt, the other great powers made their move. Ursus and Victoria struck when Gaul was at its weakest, and they allied the Leithanians
Makes sense.
to annihilate the Gaulish Empire. Of course, Leithanien's Witch King stood at
Tis,
the very
tis kind of like say, the Napoleonic, with less being Germany, more Prussia, you know, Britain getting involved as well, the other great powers of Europe getting involved also.
forefront during this battle. His fearsome arts earned him the infamous reputation of being the greatest caster that Terra had ever witnessed. The War of the Four Nations, which had shaken the entire continent of
That's actually cool, man. They've got like formation movements and everything. This is actually pretty dope. What does that say? The Duke of... Does that actually say the Duke of Wellington? Does it actually say the Duke of Wellington? What's it saying?
Terra eventually came to an end on October 21.
Yeah, this is definitely a little bit more on the
by
nose one
historians
from them,
of
isn't he?
today. It is considered as one of Terra's most significant and tragic events, which has led to the fall of the Gaulish Empire. The war had claimed millions of lives as the corpses and soldiers from various countries flooded the battlefield. Although Leithanien won the war, the country, which was the main battleground, suffered severe damage. However, instead of overseeing the recovery of the country, the Witch King intensified his tyranny, with no one capable of opposing his power and authority after the war.
That's what they used to say about the Prussians, didn't they? They said about the Prussians, it wasn't a country with an army, it was an army with a country.
During that period,
You think
the
about it.
Kurfürsten handed over infected to the Witch King in a regular quota for his arts experiments, and they could only treat this as a custody practice. Wahrhaftig, his terror was recorded in numerous stories, such as the death of a whole town as the result of just one of his arts experiments. Meanwhile, Leithanien suffered from a devastating economy and impoverished populace. Remaining shrouded in darkness, it seemed the country's future was bleak, and
almost
there
sounds
was
like
no chance for the empire
post-World
to
War
recover
I
to its
Germany.
past glory. But not all hope was lost for Leithanien, as there was a Leithanian hertzog by the name of Leopold, who had played a huge role in halting Gaulish advancement with his arts, and also
There's been some guys named Leopold in history who have not been very nice guys.
devised tactics that allowed the Leithanians to push the
Was it
Gaulish
specifically
back
King
to the
Leopold?
borders, eventually
Is it of,
resulting in the Battle of
is he
Lincoln
Belgian, no?
that
I
tore
think he
Gaul
was, yeah.
apart. While it was clear that the Witch King held him in high regard, like any Leithanian aristocrat who hated the Witch King in their roots for his tyranny, Leopold too yearned to challenge his rule. Somit, after the war, Leopold retrieved Gaulish arts technologies as trophies and led several rebellious
Well, I'm talking about
Kurfürsten
my
to
guy.
secretly study them to find clues of the Witch King's weakness. Meanwhile, the Lich King Fremont, who served as a mentor to the Witch King when he was still young, now could only fear his own disciple. He who once was the Witch King's tutor and dearest friend could only lament in sorrow and guilt. But provided with this opportunity to correct his wrongs, he set aside those feelings.
Damn, that is a goatee. Damn, bro. You know? I wouldn't trust anybody who had facial hair looking like this. I'm sorry.
And joined the project as well. He believed that if the Witch King was allowed to continue his
Scroll
reign,
up.
he could bring disaster to all of Terra. As such, Fremont and the Lich Court
I'm gonna look it
attempted
up.
to provide as much help as possible to Leopold's research team with the knowledge of Sarkas arts. With a combination of both Gaulish arts technologies, Leithanien classical arts, and Sarkas witchcrafts, they created a pair of homunculus caprini who served as the antithesis to the Witch King's art. They were sisters to each other, and the golden-haired sister was named Lieselot Ewiggnade, while the black-haired sister was named Hildegard Grimmacht. Unfortunately, Leopold would never get to witness his creations toppling the Witch King once and for all, as he passed away in the midst of the project. In the final 2 to 3 decades of the Witch King's rule, as he descended into Wahnsinn, he spent most of his time isolated in his high spire, almost completely cutting off all contact with the outside world. During this period, the power of the state returned to the hands of the Kurfürsten, and this made for the prime opportunity for the rebels to strike. The September Revolution was a revolution that marked the end of the Witch King's tyranny after years of accumulating opposing voices. Hence, it was also called the September Aufstand. The rebels' army was led by the twin sisters Lieselot and Hildegard, who
Nah, I got it. I got it. I'll have a look in a second, dude. I'll just watch the end of this and then I'll look at it properly. I've got it now.
See, as the youngest co-principals in history. They also gained renown for their political stance, which was in opposition to the Witch King's faction. And in the September of 1077, their coup d'etat began. The rebel army decisively defeated the Witch King's loyalists and advanced towards Vedunium, the current capital of the Witch King's reign. Despite facing formidable challenges from the destructive Originium arts of the Witch King's spire, they pressed on. The battle reduced the Kurfürsten's soldiers to ashes, but the loyalists managed to hold the rebels at a stalemate. Undeterred, the twin sisters led an allied force in a daring nighttime siege on the capital, breaking through the 22 arts barriers protecting the Witch King's
spire. Like, man, again, when I look, I like Wu's world, right? And I know they're going for a different thing, but when I see, like, a lot of the stuff in Wuthering Waves, I'm just like, oh, man, you know, just not at that level of world building yet. Of course, we've still got a long way to go. This is 5 years of world building. I get it. I do get it. People have made that comment a few times. I understand that. I'm not ignorant to that fact. But still, you know, Wuthering Waves could definitely benefit from this sort of world building. And I don't even mean just padding out the world. I mean, like, things like this happening where it's like, damn, bro, that was kind of fucked up, you know? There's not enough of that in Wu, and I get why, I understand why, but like, CN loves this, yeah? CN loves this, right? I don't understand why CN was so opposed to the darker start of Wu, unless it was just more the Genshin CN community that was opposed to it, you know? Kind of weird.
They confronted him in the final showdown at dawn. With the defeat of the
I'm specifically talking about CBT1.
Emerged victorious, returning safely to the
yeah, I agree, Hazarul. Yeah, I agree. I've probably been a little bit harsh.
The Kurfürsten had never witnessed. The
triumph Wintercita has been amazing, I will admit.
The end of the Witch King's tyranny and ushered in a new era of Leithanien. As they gained growing popular support, the Kurfürsten decided to abandon tradition and crowned the twin sisters as the twin empresses of Leithanien. The era of the twin empresses marked an era of restoration. Stability was finally restored, and compensation was made to the survivors. On the other hand, some of the old policies were reverted back, such as the restoration of the...
Heard we would start with everyone hates the MC. It wasn't so much that they hated the MC, it's just that, like, Rover turned up, did some stuff that nobody else can do, obviously just popped out of nowhere and started doing some crazy shit. And the characters were like, whoa, wait a minute, what's this? To the point where Chia pulled a gun out on Rover and was basically, I'm paraphrasing, don't fucking move or I'll blow your fucking brains out. She didn't exactly say that, but you know, you get the gist, right? You get the gist. And apparently, it was a little bit darker. They were going for more of that, I don't want to say gritty, but you know what I mean? And then CN really didn't like that, so they went more down the line of, like, the power of friendship. So that initial start was changed. There was a lot of other stuff changed, but I'm more focusing on this, that, you know, you turn up, you do this stuff, and everyone's like, oh, you're great. And, yeah, it's just kind of rippled out across the rest of the story. But again, we've got to give them time to cook, because they basically ripped up 90% of the story from CBT1 to the game. I think Rinasita itself, for me, is really where the storytelling's actually starting afresh now. Like 1.0 was kind of like a Frankenstein version of the old story. They just tried to put it back together. You know, it's like just like characters like Calcharo. I feel like he had something more important prior, but he doesn't now, because I feel like he's like a remnant of a bit more of a darker part of what Wuthering Waves is going to have to him. But like now, dude's just been left to the wayside, hasn't he? And we get the new version of Calcharo now in Yao, which is more of like, you know, hey, look at this guy, you know. Hopefully, Rinasita's been really good though. Rinasita's been really good.
The rigid aristocracy rather than the meritocracy the Witch King established, and the Kurfürsten once again dominated the political field. And that brings us to the end of this video. If you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to read Zwillingstürme im Herbst for the continuation of Leithanien's story. And if you already have done
video.
that, ausgezeichnet und auf Wiedersehen.
Bro, cooked, fried, and sauteed with this video. That's a really good video, that was. This deserves way more views. All right. This deserves way more views. This is a really good video, this was. Shout out to Plus Minus, guys. You probably saw his content. Check him out. Top tier video, that was. I really enjoyed that. Did it very well, eloquently. Good editing. The music was great. The visuals are all put together well. It was a very, very good video. Dude cooked hard.